Hello and welcome to Football News.
We really need a better title for this. Please, if you've got any ideas, the comments, please.
Yeah.
The best we've got is 4-4 News at the minute, and we're not using that.
Not using that. I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, joined by Adam Cleary and Adam Nicholas from What Culture to discuss all of today's big footballing news stories. And let's dive straight into it with the saga that continues at Newcastle United.
We wanted to start this on a positive note, and this is where we've begun.
Yeah.
Look, this is a lot of Newcastle. Can we start with a Koscielny story? We'll just come back to this. Because anybody who's watching the channels just watched like 20 minutes of Newcastle.
In the interest of that and our hearts, let's do something else first.
We've not even touched on Notts County yet. So
let's
key demographics.
Stick a pin in that because there's some rumoured breaking news around Newcastle. We'll get to that in a second because it's been announced or been revealed by BBC Sport that Arsenal captain Laurent Koscielny has refused to travel on the club's pre-season tour of the US. Of course, the 33-year-old French defender is out of contract at the end of next season and is a target for the likes of Bordeaux, Rennes, and me. I don't know why I attempted the gag.
Bordeaux,
Lyon,
Herbal,
Dijon.
But this is kind of a microcosm of what we're seeing with quite a few players who are want away.
There's a lot of this summer already. Like Neymar refused to turn up for PSG's training. Griezmann's not going on the pre-season tour with Atletico. Now Koscielny's not going on the pre-season tour with Arsenal. None of the people who've done this have got their way yet. So I don't really see what precedent's being set by this kind of like lack of professionalism. It's a weird one, Koscielny, because there's never been any real talk about him being unhappy at the club. And as soon as if he does want to go, then they can just fly him back very easily. So unless the club have sat him down and said, look, we're not going to sell you this year, we'd rather you went for free at the end of the season than, we got like a partly sum for you this season, and it's just him trying to make a protest of it. I don't know.
Yeah, you can sort of understand his frustrations. It does feel like any time there's a decent squad being built around and they lose some key players or they just have been a bit, Arsenal in recent years. This is a crucial summer for Arsenal, isn't it? Because they've had that period of transition under the new manager, and it feels like they should be pushing on, having made the Europa League final last year, and that doesn't seem to be happening.
I feel like a lot of people said last year that you'd have to give Emery at least a season because he didn't really have the time to buy in the players he wanted to buy in properly. He didn't get a chance to really make the club his own. It's a short period of time. He's done given the fact they got to the final last year, and it wasn't the worst season. It's a hard league, the Premier League, at the end of the day, especially if you're Arsenal these days.
They certainly weren't out of touch with the top four at any point. It wasn't like they were clawing their way up. They were in that top four for a long period, dropped in, dropped out, and then by the end of the season, they just didn't have the legs to get it. I agree. You sort of think every summer is a crucial summer for any of the big clubs, don't you? But this does feel particularly like, he'd had his season, he'd got a couple of the players, and if he was going to do it, he had to do it this year. And
he got that fantastic pairing of Lacazette and Aubameyang, and you think that's your base, isn't it? You build around that. You've got this decent squad coming together. Granted, they've obviously lost Petr Cech, but it just doesn't feel like they had a plan where say at the start of June, for example, you'll have people to go away, and at the start of June you go, right, these are the players we really need to get in, and these are the areas of the team that need to strengthen, and it kind of appears that this might have been a reaction to something like that.
I think this is sort of feels very formulaic of Arsenal, doesn't it? Where we just start to think maybe a couple of pieces are setting, and then all of a sudden, usually it's one, but usually it's a key player at this point. So whether or not there's still plenty of time left, and also we're focusing on these guys, but I just feel like just before they get a rhythm perfectly settled, usually just before the start of the season, probably something big will happen that might shift it out of the way.
I think it does. We saw stories yesterday that they maybe can't even afford Wilfried Zaha. We'd seen some absurd figures doing the rounds, absurdly low in the case of 30 million, which would have got you him in 2006. Maybe an absurdly high, like Crystal Palace wanted 100 million for him. And I think if it's getting to the stage where they've obviously potentially told Koscielny, we can't let you go this season because getting a replacement to play as many games as you is beyond our budget, that does kind of speak to those stories that maybe the money isn't there for them this year. Because if Koscielny is indispensable at 33 and having had a fairly bad few seasons of injury, you'd think that's the kind of area they'd be looking to replace, but if they've not got the money for it, then they can't let him go.
Exactly. Right, let's move on to Newcastle as much as we want to put it off.
Don't want to.
I don't want to play.
More news coming out about them potentially approaching Sam Allardyce to return as the club's manager.
Right, so we did this yesterday, right? And it was like, what can they do? How have they got it so spectacularly wrong? And we used Steve Bruce as the photo because it was just stupid. Like, I'll get a couple of people clicking, I'll get a few curiosity clicks, putting Steve Bruce in it, like Steve Bruce is going to go to Newcastle. And possibly by the time this goes out,
Yeah.
he'll have been unveiled as their manager. He's going to cost reports are everything between 3 million and 6 million to get him out of a contract, which is, if it's 6, that's 3 times the pay rise Rafa was asking for. He wanted a 2 million pay rise, couldn't do that. They were scouring the continent for these exciting young European managers. It's not how I would describe noted novelist and chip shot bowler Steve Bruce.
Did they get waylaid on the way to doing that, presumably? And
Quite
found
possibly,
Steve
yeah.
on
Maybe
the way?
she should think they might think Sheffield's in like continental Italy or something.
He was just happened to be in the services that they were
At the
stopping at.
airport just before they start doing the flight.
Thing is, he's not even one of those steady pair of hands managers, because if you look at his track record, he's either resigned or been sacked from a litany of just underwhelming, underperforming clubs. Like Sheffield Wednesday weren't exactly pulling up trees.
Lots of
with him
relegations, man.
Lots of relegations, lots of scraps, lots of promotions, so he might come in handy next season.
Aye, but off the back, usually with
Have a relegation. Don't get me wrong, I think he's probably a thoroughly lovely bloke and he knows what he's letting himself in for. You know, he's allegedly a big fan of Newcastle United, but, you know, I don't think you take the Sunderland job and cry about getting beat 5-1 if you're a big Newcastle fan. And, you know, I wonder who he wanted to win the league when he was playing for Man United in like 95. I don't know how much of a Newcastle fan he was then. Like, it's just it's such an. It's the annoying thing is how quickly it's happened as well.
Yeah.
Like, it took months of dragging their feet over Rafa. This takeover's been going on for 2 months, but when they actually want to go and do something, 2 days. 2 days in, and he's going to be unveiled, they think, before the weekend.
I just feel like my whole world's falling apart in Newcastle again. This is like and it's kind of why I end up taking little stints away, because it's just your heart gets so hit.
How can you not,
But I think watching it unfold as quickly as it has in terms of the takeover, it's just floating around in the background somewhere. We don't know what's really going on. Rafa obviously gone. Perez gone. Man United looking at Longstaff. Or like it's just
Rondon obviously.
Rondon off the join Rafa, and honestly at the minute it's bad news after bad news after bad news, and I don't really see like Steve Bruce to me, man. He's not the knight in shining armour I need, and I get the need somebody probably to help tide the club over for this little period where things are going to be in change, and maybe when the takeover happens, that person might end up being surplus to requirements anyway. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know, but. It's just
bizarre. It's the money
man.
they're going to have to spend as well, because if they are serious about staying up, they've lost their 2 top goal scorers. You know, you're going to spend. I mean, how much does it cost you to replace 2 proven goal scorers in the Premier League now? 40 million each.
Yeah, easy.
You know what I mean? And the money they're going to have to spend purely to get back to where they were at the end of last season is money they were just never happy to give to Rafa. So if they do give Bruce this war chest that's going to be required to stay up, then this is just a complete repeat of the McLaren situation.
Yeah.
Throwing money at someone who doesn't know how to spend it when. Oh,
as a panic resort, instead of just using the thing you had and making it work.
Just think about what Steve Bruce is going to bring out from Almiron, though. Right, let's move on to the third news story of today, and a report that's come out.
Pie and mash, probably.
God.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'd be putting it in for him. No, pulling it out of him.
The report has come out that almost.
Steve Bruce will walk up the first day of training, take one look at Almiron, and go, "Oh, women's team's quite handy, aren't they?"
Almost 2/3 of fans of English Football League clubs want VAR and goal line technology introduced, according to a survey.
Oh, sorry, you've misread that. It actually says almost 2/3 of fans of English Football League clubs are cops and grasses. So
there you go.
There's that,
This survey of nearly 28,000 supporters
Can confirm,
yeah.
has said that they want to use a VAR goal line technology. A lot of discussion about it recently. Obviously, it's been brought in more and more across competitions. Obviously, it's been used in championship matches for 2 seasons. Do you think it's going to be something that's going to be brought in a lot more across the board, or do you think there's going to be maybe a cut-off point? Because it's difficult to see how it can be utilised, and certainly as a lower league fan myself, I'm a very lower league fan, I can't see it being utilised, and almost that's, not to sound like my dad, that's kind of the beauty of lower league football, is the mistakes of officials.
There is no downside whatsoever to introducing goal line technology at any level of football.
I
like
agree with that one.
if the ball is a millimetre over the line, it doesn't matter how it got there or the situation around it. If it's a millimetre over the line, it is a goal. But I think we've seen, certainly at the Women's World Cup, that VAR, when not executed well, is the worst thing about football. It was great at the Men's World Cup because a lot of the referees who've been at the Men's World Cup had a season to use it. A lot of them had come from leagues that had already instigated it. They had experience of it. They knew when to use it, when not to use it. But I think as we saw there, when you throw referees in at the deep end with it, these big matches, these pivotal games are on television and they've never used it before, it slows down the games, it gets used when it shouldn't, some of the decisions go, like some of the handballs and that, they hit the hand, sure, but just, it takes the human element out of it completely.
Almost like it also kind of reveals what you're saying there about the referees who perhaps aren't maybe as skilled or perhaps maybe less experienced, is probably a better way to put it, in these areas. Like, it maybe highlights areas that they need to improve themselves, that perhaps they've kind of been able to not coast along, but haven't exactly been highlighted before, and then you get them in a situation where they're giving away a handball for what is clearly maybe it's an accidental thing, and it's been proved using a camera, and we've got that result in the wrong way.
It's some sort of middle ground has got to be reached, hasn't it? Because I know they've talked, obviously, with it being brought into the Premier League, about them saying, well, they've been practicing with it a lot, and they're a lot more used to it. And obviously, they're a lot more experienced at the higher level, the Premier League referees, or so we think at least. But for me, it's got to be, there's a fine line there between every single decision, not every single decision, but utilising VAR for almost every decision that's questionable, or giving them a little bit of leniency and saying, all right, maybe yes, the toe is offside, but that's the element of human error that you're bringing into it. I suppose you want it to be.
Well, that's the thing,
they always say clear and obvious, don't they?
They always say clear and obvious, but we talked about this before. Like, a lot of the decisions, especially when against the England women's team, the toe is offside, and you watch that and you think, oh, that's ridiculous. That would never have been given an offside by them. But that is the letter of the law. If any part of your body is beyond, even if it is a millimetre, that counts. But the problem with that is that's boring. That's really, really boring. But you can't just say, like, oh, the people in the studio with the VAR set, they should judge whether or not there's enough in it. Because where is it? Is it 5 millimetres then? Is it 10 millimetres? Like, if you once you start getting down to these margins that can be accurately measured for these things, where do you draw the line? Daylight? How do you define daylight? What if it's just daylight between the knee? What if it's daylight between, like, there's a crook in the arm or something?
Daylight between the toes,
Just VAR is bad and is for cops and grasses. That's all there is to it.
Whereas goal line technology.
Goal line technology is a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I don't know, you see, I kind of sit on the other thing. I sit with the cops on this one, right? With the VARs, me and me cop pals, because I feel like if you can refine it to the point, like you're saying there, where you can use it, but people know how to use it, have been trained how to use it. We have clear and defined rules, obviously more rules on top of rules that we've got, but clear and defined rules to just specify, so that can be, that has to a way that there is no error. Essentially what they're trying to achieve. It's difficult, and I think it would require margins, as you say, for example, the offside thing. If you can get a threshold of, like when you go over the speed limit by 10% or whatever, that sort of thing. If they can manage to get that and they can figure out the way to just iron out the creases, I think it could be really good. Let's be honest, the World Cup, the Men's World Cup, like we were all raving about
VAR was high banter
because it was, but the drama that it was adding and the things that it was adding to the game that people thought were getting taken out. And I have to say, even watching the women's, especially the England in the semis, like watching that match, we saw both sides of the coin in that match, where the wait around for was going to be a penalty, were we going to get the penalty, and obviously the goal that got disallowed for being offside. Like, it's both sides of the coin, but I wouldn't argue against having VAR.
I think England fans universally agreed that the moment it knocked out Germany from the World Cup last year, we liked VAR.
That's possibly my favourite moment of all time, that.
Yeah.
But there's a question mark over it. I feel like this is a discussion that we can go on and on.
Oh, this could be a whole lot of
We'll have to do a round table about this.
The headline here is not VAR. The headline here is that
Football League
2/3 of Football League fans are weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. And from one difficult discussion to another, with Megan Rapinoe demanding equal pay yet again as part of the celebration for the, of course, women's US soccer team winning the Women's World Cup. They had a ceremony recently over in the States, and she repeated this claim that she wants equal pay for their, quote, badass team. Now, no question marks on whether or not their team is badass. Where do you see this going forward with equal pay?
Well, it's dead easy, this. It's international football that's paid for by the federations. It's not like a free market economy like you have in club football, because it's Man City women's team are fantastic. They're one of the best women's sides in the world. But where the women's game is now, it's absurd to suggest they should be getting paid what the men's team are, purely because, you know, the TV rights, you know, it's just where the money comes from. It doesn't make sense. It's what you'd like to aim for, sure, but it's not where it is now. But this is international football. Federations pay for it. They're not businesses. They get their money from the state. It doesn't matter one bit how they divide that money up. So of course they should be getting equal pay. 28 million people in the UK watched the Women's World Cup. The final had it sold out the Parc des Princes pretty much. Like, you can't make the argument that nobody's interested in it, because clearly people are.
It's a very old-fashioned argument, especially because I think I heard when I was listening to the final that the women's US national team sells more shirts
I wouldn't surprise
than the
me
men's. by a long distance.
The US men's national team are hopeless.
Rubbish. What do you think about all this?
I think it's amazing that we're still having to have this conversation. I mean, I can understand, especially the club level stuff. That makes sense. TV rights are big factors. There's lots of other parts to play in those wages that teams get and the money the clubs get. But at international level, man, like it can't be that hard. I'm sorry, but it just can't be. Like, and as you say, name me the achievements that the American men's team have achieved compared to the ones that the women's team have done in the last 10 years. That no comparison.
It's
absolutely
the argument you always
comparison.
get though, like, oh well, you can't start giving like Tony Duggan the same money as Sergio Aguero. Well, of course you can't. Like they're different sports at the minute entirely. But like, imagine being bothered about how much money international footballers get. It's not. Don't get me wrong. If Man City turned around tomorrow and said we're gonna pay the men and women equally, all of a sudden they'd have to massively cut the men's wages to balance out. It means they wouldn't be able to compete to buy the kind of players they want. It's a bad business decision. This isn't a business. No. This is literally state money. I can't. How people get wound up. Oh, they should be getting that much. Like, imagine being asked. Just give them half the money. It's meant to be an honour to play for your country anyway. So why does it matter if the men are getting paid less?
Surely the majority of the players who are if you're in national team, if you're playing for a national team, you must be pretty good.
Yeah.
You must be a decent level. So yeah, they might not get the huge wages as much the teams they're playing for. They're not going to be earning no money at all, are they? It's not like they're make or break. I can get it if it's these smaller nations where they've barely got any money, but like this is America.
Yeah.
Like, this is America.
I don't know, have you got the stats there? 'Cause I'm sure it's like the men's team got $500,000 for the last World Cup, and the women's team are getting 90,000.
Wow,
something like
Didn't
that. And they won again. They're getting 90,000. So let's say.
Oh, curious, just to clarify, who's determining that fee? Like
that's just the federations based on like their performances. The men get $500,000, and it's going to be 90,000. So let's say they've got $600,000 for this.
Yes.
Just give $300,000 to women. Give $300,000 to the men. And if you're annoyed about it, then why don't you demand that the clubs that your precious men's footballers play for just make the difference?
And I certainly would argue there's more mega stars in that women's US national team.
I could probably name more of the women's team than I could the men's team.
Yeah, certainly right now I could.
I was like, is Brian McBride still playing? Right,
Claudio Reyna, Brad Friedel,
Landon Donovan,
Clint Dempsey.
Yeah. Who's the one whose dad managed it? Bob Bradley.
Bob Bradley. Yedlin's in there because I know he plays for Newcastle. But I'd probably name the starting 11 for the women's team.
Is his dog in the team yet or not?
Yeah, Simba. No, Simba's not in.
Final news story.
He's in with a shout of the way they're playing.
Final
we need
news
a new
story
striker anyway at the tune, to be fair. Probably something like that.
Today. Centres around Barcelona, who just signed England under 16 striker Louie Barry on a 3-year contract.
Louie Barry could almost be like an Italian name, couldn't it? Like Luibari.
Louie Barry.
Not the case though. He's born in Birmingham. He's born in Birmingham.
In where?
Birmingham.
There we go.
He played for West Bromwich Albion.
Hello, Lionel. My name's Louis.
My name's Louis.
Can you show me around the plaza?
He's going to be playing apparently for their under-19s team, and he's played for the Baggies since he was 6. But yes, 16 years old, off to Barcelona. Craziness.
Hello, sorry, Mr. PK. Could you show me down Las Ramblas, please? I need to buy some fridge magnets.
Listen, he might be off to Barcelona to play, but was he getting into the sports cafe in Newcastle on a night out at 16? I don't think he was. I don't think he was.
Do you think we're going to see more of this? Or do you think this is a...
What, of Louie Barry?
Certainly not of Louie Barry.
If you look at the mentally snipping out the most recent tournament, which was an absolute disaster, because I think they've still got... Who's in charge? Is it Eddie Boothroyd still? Yeah, mentally snipping that out. England youth sides have been the best in the world undeniably the last 3 or 4 years. You look at like the success Sancho's had over in Germany, Reece Nelson over in Germany, Oxford over in wherever he's gone. A lot of them are getting out of England and learning their trade elsewhere. I think we've seen already, like when Sancho's come back to play for the England side, the fact that he's got a bit more footballing education on the continent as opposed to whatever he would have got playing for Man City's reserves is fantastic. If they see that as a genuine route for him into the Barcelona first team, or even if he stays there and he goes out on loan to a couple of Spanish sides, that's great.
That's got to be the worry. I mean, it's a confidence builder. You see, like people like Sancho have gone away and they are grafting away and they're getting to play, which is
getting the games,
getting games. They're getting confidence. So when they come back, he's probably thinking, I'm probably not be at the level of English football yet. And he comes back and he plays in the England team and he's absolutely class because these guys are actually getting the game, they're getting time, and they've got the confidence because the managers are like, yeah, we'll give you a go. The one worry for me, if I was Louie Barry going across there, would be how to spend all my money, obviously. But after that worry would be that very thing you described there.
Brexit,
Yep, that's the other one. It would be more so actually getting shipped out to like a lower league club and maybe just falling down the pecking order, playing with the quality players that you need to be playing to adapt as a footballer.
It's about managing your career. Like, obviously, we're not saying he's going to go there and walk into the Barcelona team the same way Sancho has with Dortmund, but if he's just going to be sitting in West Brom's youth team in their reserves for the next couple of years, I'd rather be sat in Barcelona's youth team in reserves for the next couple of years. You have to look at the Jack Harper situation. He's going to get to a state. He was at Real Madrid, and there was his path to the first team was blocked and blocked and blocked. Transpired he wasn't actually that good, and eventually he left. I think about 2021 and went into the lower leagues in England. So as long as you're not just going to sit there until you're 23, not getting a kick. You got to manage your career, right? But again, if you're going to sit in anybody's youth team, I'd rather sit in theirs.
When I was 16, I couldn't have afforded the Barcelona kit, and he's got given one for free. So.
That's shocking, that, isn't it?
Out that.
With his name on.
Right, let's move on to today's and finally, I want to show you this footage from social media, which is Orlando City supporters.
Where is it?
Who are running to
it?
the opposite side of the stadium. There was a cup competition in the US between Orlando City and NYCFC. It went to penalties, and they did it at the opposite end of the stadium. So the footage here is the Orlando City supporters running to the opposite end to be behind the goal for the penalties. The good news, Orlando won 5-4, so it worked. It worked in the end. Right, let us know your thoughts on all of today's news stories in the comment section below or on Twitter at WhatCultureFC. Watch there, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Adam Cleary at
Adam Cleary, Clery.
You can follow Adam Nicholas at
It's Adam Nicholas.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow us all, as I said, at What Culture FC, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe this video, and subscribe to What Culture Football on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily reports. Right, this has been the football news for now.
TBC.
My thanks to Adam, and thank you for watching or listening, and we will see you soon.